Hi there, everyone. This is Miss Reniker, or should I say Captain America, here to teach you how to find the volume of composite shapes. Okay, so a composite shape is generally two rectangular prisms that are put together. You could see it with other shapes that are combined, but today we're going to focus on rectangular prisms. And this is going to go along with days 4 and 5 of week 5 of your e-learning packet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up our packet. And today we're going to take some of those skills that we learned for weeks or days 1 through 3 and use them for days 4 and 5. So if we look at day number 4 here, you'll see that a composite shape is two of these rectangular prisms that have been put together. Okay, so I'm going to look at number 2. And my first step to finding the volume of a shape like this is simply to divide it into two separate rectangular prisms, okay? Because there's no set formula to find the volume of an irregular shape like this, but there are formulas to find the volume of rectangular prisms, okay? So we're going to divide this into two separate shapes. So I'm going to divide it along this line right here, because in my head, when I look at it, I kind of see this bottom prism and then this top prism. Okay, so I'm gonna make this green one here prism number 1, and I'm gonna shade this one down here blue and make it prism number 2. Okay, so my first step is to find the width of each of these prisms. Okay, so if I look at this top one here, it's 1, 2, 3 wide. Okay, so my width for it is going to be 3. My length is also 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to label that length 3. And the height is 1, 2. So now if we look at this bottom prism down here, it is 1 wide. Okay, it's only 1 unit across. It is 1, 2, 3 long, or 3 deep, right? And it is 1, 2 tall. Okay, so for the height, we are only finding the height of this little bottom shape down here. We're not going all the way up. We're just finding this part right here from where we cut it into 2. Now to find the volume of each shape, you're going to want to multiply these numbers together because our formula for volume is length times width times height. Okay, so if you need to write that on the top of your paper, I would recommend it just so that it's a nice reminder for you. But to find the volume, we have to take our length times our width times our height, and that's 1 times 3, which I know is 3, and then 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. So the volume of this little shape down here is going to be 6. Okay, and then we're going to find the volume of this shape up here by taking 3 times 3 times 2. I know that 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is going to give me 18, right? So I have 6 down here, and then I have 18 up here for this shape. Okay, and you can check these by counting the individual cubes if you would like, and that'll show you that these numbers are correct. So if you're someone who struggles a little bit with multiplication or just doesn't like to multiply, you can count these cubes as well, and that will also show you what the volume is. But now that we have the volume of each of these prisms, we have to add them together to find the combined volume of this entire composite shape. So I'm going to take my volume for part 1 plus my volume for part 2 here and add them together. 18 plus 6 is going to give me 24. So the total volume of this composite shape is 24 cubic units, or 24 units cubed. Okay. And that's how you're going to go about solving each of these ones, whether they have the grid lines like this or not for day number 5. Okay, so for day 4, they don't necessarily label the numbers, but since they give you the individual cubes, you can count. for day 5, they do label the numbers. So you're going to use that to help you find the volume of each shape. Now for some of them, you got to look kind of close, because like this one, it gives you the width for this shape up here, but it doesn't label it for this shape down here, this rectangular prism. But I'll notice that they're both the same width. The drawing shows me that, right? That this prism is just as wide as this one. So I know that if my width for this part right here is 5, my width for this one also has to be 5. Okay, so even though it may not label every single number specifically, if you search a little bit, you will be able to find them, I promise. So that being said, let's take a look at number 1 on day 5 continued. And the reason that I chose this one is because it combines 3 different rectangular prisms, so it's a little bit more than on day number 4 or the beginning of day number 5. So I'm gonna start by looking at this top shape, because they've already divided it into 3 different prisms for us. Okay, so I'm gonna start by finding the volume of this top one. So shape number 1, the width is 10, tells me that right here. The length, it does not tell me up here, so I gotta go searching. I noticed that this part and this part are both labeled 3. Well, they're just as wide as my shape up here, so I know that that length there has to be 3, right? And then my height is going to be 2, because once again, we're only looking at the height of this shape right here, not the whole thing, just this little part, okay, where the line is at. So my height is going to be 2. Okay, now we're going to look at shape number 2 over here. Okay, so my width is going to be 2. I can see that because it tells me right here. My length is going to be 3. That one tells me as well. And then my height is going to be 4. Once again, we're not looking at the height of the entire shape, just this individual prism down here. Okay, and then my last shape, my last rectangular prism over here is going to be super easy because it has all the same dimensions as this one over here. If you look at our drawing, we can see that they are equal. So the width is also 2, the length is 3, and the height is 4. Okay. So now what I have to do is I have to find the volume of each of these individual shapes. So I found their measurements, now I gotta find the volume. So for this one, I have to take 10 times 3 times 2. I know that 10 times 3 is 30. 30 times 2 is going to give me 60. Okay, so this one is 60 units cubed. If I look at shape number 3 down here, I gotta take 2 times 3 times 4. 2 times 3 is gonna give me 6. 6 times 4 is gonna give me 24. Okay, so shape number 3 is 24, which means that shape number 2 is exactly the same because they have all the same measurements. So to find the total composite volume of this shape, I have to add the volume of each individual prism together. So to do that, I have to take 24 plus 24 plus 60. Okay, so I get my 24 from this shape, my 24 from that shape, and my 60 from that shape. When I add them all together, 24 plus 24 gives me 48. 48 plus 60 gives me 108. 108 what? Well, it doesn't call them inches, it doesn't call them centimeters, but it's important that we still put a unit there so that we know what we're talking about. So it's going to be 108 units, and then it's going to be units cubed. Okay, so that's where you write that little 3 up above. That tells us that it's cubed because volume is always cubed. It's the number of cubic units that can fit in a shape. Okay, so I hope that that helps you with days 4 and 5. If you have any more questions, please do not hesitate to let me know. But I hope that this review has you feeling super about doing volume.